So, you're renting a place? Well, did you know that might make you a part-time tax collector for the government? Maybe without even realizing it. Today, we're going to break down a rule that could honestly save you a lot of money and a ton of hassle. TDS on rent for 2026.
Okay, let me ask you something right off the bat. Is your rent more than 50,000 rupees a month? If you just nodded yes, then you're definitely going to want to stick around for this.
So if your hand is up, then surprise, the government has kind of given you a new side gig. It's their way of keeping tabs on rental income, making sure everyone's paying their fair share of tax. Now, I know that sounds a little intimidating, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll see it's way simpler than it sounds.
All right, let's dive in. Think of this as your personal guide to navigating this whole thing. We're talking about what you need to do, when you need to do it, and, this is the big one, how to make sure you don't get hit with any nasty, unexpected penalties.
Okay, so this is where things get a little bit specific. See, the rules aren't the same for everybody. It really all depends on who you are as a tenant. So our very first step is to figure out which of these two camps you fall into. So on one side, you've got the business tenant. Think companies, big firms, professionals who have to get a tax audit. You guys fall under Section 194I. Then, on the other side, we have the individual tenant. This is probably most of you, salaried people, small business owners who aren't getting audited. Your go-to is Section 194IB. It's really important to know which one you are, because the playbooks are totally different.
Okay, let's start with case file A, the business tenant. If you're in that first group, running a business that gets audited, this is your section. Let's dig into the details of Section 194-I.
So for businesses, the magic number to remember is 6 lakh rupees a year. If your total annual rent crosses that line, boom, you've got to deal with TDS. It's also worth noting this number was bumped up recently, which was a nice little bit of relief for smaller businesses.
Now here's where it gets even more specific. The TDS rate isn't one size fits all. If you're renting, say, an office space, some furniture, or a building, that's a 10% deduction. But if you're renting plant and machinery, the rate drops way down to just 2%. Yeah, that's a pretty huge difference you need to be aware of.
Okay, timing is absolutely crucial here, and this is where a lot of people make mistakes. You need to deduct the tax when you credit the rent to your landlord in your books or when you actually pay them. And the key phrase is whichever is earlier. So the moment one of those two things happens, that's when the clock starts, no exceptions.
All right, business folks, hopefully that's clear. Now, let's shift over to case file B, which is all about the individual tenant. And if you're in this category, you're probably going to like what you hear, because the rules under Section 194IB are, well, they're a lot simpler.
So for individuals, forget about adding everything up for the year. It's super straightforward. Is your rent more than 50,000 rupees a month? If yes, you have to deduct TDS. That's it. Nice and easy.
And the good news just keeps coming. The rate? It's a nice, low, flat 2%. And here's a little backstory on that. It actually used to be 5%. They brought it down in late 2024, which was a huge relief for a lot of tenants.
Now this might be the best part of all for individual tenants. Remember how businesses have to do this every month? Well, you don't. You only have to do it once a year. You just calculate the total TDS for the entire year and deduct it from your last rent payment. That could be the last month of your lease, or if you're there for the long haul, it'll be in March.
Okay, now listen up, because this is probably the single most important rule to remember. If your landlord can't or won't give you their PAN number, look what happens. The TDS rate skyrockets to 20%. No, that is not a typo. 20%. So, seriously, if you remember nothing else, remember this. You absolutely have to get your landlord's PAN.
All right. So you know which category you're in, you know the rate, you've made the deduction. Now what? How do you actually get that money to the government? Let's walk through the steps.
Okay, for the business tenants out there, the process is a bit more formal. First, you need something called a TAN. That's a tax deduction account number. Think of it as a special account just for this. Then, each month you'll deposit the tax using a form called a challan. And you're not done yet. You also have to file a return every quarter, and then give your landlord a certificate, Form 16A, as proof.
Now for you individual tenants, it is so much easier. You don't need a TAN. Your own PAN is perfectly fine. You just fill out one simple form online, that's Form 26QC, to file and pay.
Once that's done, you download the certificate, which is Form 16C, from the portal and hand it over to your landlord. That's it.
So we've gone through the who, the what, and the how. But now we need to talk about the when. And this is a big one, because missing these deadlines isn't a small mistake. It can get expensive, fast. So let's talk about penalties and how to stay out of trouble.
Okay, deadlines. If you're a business doing this monthly, your payment is due by the 7th of the following month. So April's rent TDS is due by May 7th, and so on. The only little twist is for March rent. You get until April 30th to pay that. And if you're an individual paying just once a year, your deadline is 30 days from the end of the month in which you made that deduction.
And what if you're late? Well, the penalties start adding up. There are 2 different interest charges to watch out for. If you're late in just deducting the tax in the first place, that's a 1% interest penalty per month. But if you deduct it on time, but then you're late in actually depositing it with the government, that's even worse. The interest rate for that is 1.5% per month.
Oh, but wait, there's more. On top of that interest, there's also a late filing fee. We're talking 200 rupees for every single day you're late in filing the forms. It doesn't sound like a lot at first, but trust me, that can add up to a scary number really, really fast.
And there you have it. That's everything you need to know about TDS on rent. You're basically an expert now. We've covered the rules, the different rates, and all the steps. But I just want to leave you with this one last question. You're all set to do the right thing, but have you actually checked your landlord's PAN? Because as we saw, that one tiny detail can make all the difference. Thanks for joining me.